I, Kael Draven, Alpha King, hereby swear the Winter Oath.
No! Stop!
Mira, wait! Don't touch it!
I saw something. It's inside. Something in the stone.
The warning. It's true. Mira! Get behind me!
Mother?
Guards, prepare!
It is no longer crying. It is awake.
The Alpha King's hand was less than an inch from the oath stone when a child's scream shattered the ceremony. Don't touch it, King Kael. Every wolf in the Hall of 7 Wolves turned. 7 alphas. Dozens of nobles. Royal guards lining the black stone walls. And at the center of them all stood Kael Draven, Alpha King of Veyrholm, his hand frozen above the ancient silver stone. For 187 years, Kael had survived wars, rebellions, and challenges from wolves strong enough to tear a man apart. But the voice that stopped him belonged to a 6-year-old human girl. Mira Rowan ran across the ceremonial floor before her mother could catch her. Mira. Elara's frightened voice followed her daughter through the hall. 2 royal guards stepped forward. Kael raised one hand. Let her come. The guard stopped instantly. Mira reached the platform and stared at the oath stone. She wasn't looking at the Alpha King. She was looking at the ancient object as if something inside it was staring back. Kael lowered his hand. What did you hear? The question silenced the whisper spreading through the hall. Mira looked up at him. Someone's crying. A few nobles exchanged confused glances. Kael did not. Where? Mira slowly pointed toward the stone. In there. Elara finally reached her daughter and pulled her close. Your Majesty, forgive her. She doesn't understand the ceremony. Before Kael could answer, Lord Soren Vale stepped from beside the royal platform. The Alpha King's cousin had advised the crown for more than 60 years. Mira is frightened, Soren said calmly. Perhaps her mother should take her outside. Mira grabbed Kael's sleeve. No. Several wolves growled at the breach of royal etiquette. Mira didn't seem to hear them. It knows you're going to touch it. Kael's silver-gray eyes narrowed. What knows? The thing inside. She swallowed. It wants you to. That changed something in the room. Kael looked toward the oath stone. The artifact had bound the 7 packs to his bloodline for generations. No ceremony recognized an Alpha King without it. Tonight, Kael was supposed to renew that covenant before every powerful wolf in Veyrholm. Instead, he stepped away. Royal Mage. An elderly wolf approached. Examine the stone. A murmur swept through the alphas. Lord Soren's expression remained perfectly calm. Almost perfectly. The mage placed 2 fingers against the silver surface. For several seconds, nothing happened. Then black veins appeared beneath his fingertips. He tore his hand away. The oath stone screamed. Not like stone breaking. Like something alive. Every wolf in the hall heard it this time. The royal mage stared at Kael in horror. My king. His voice shook. Someone has corrupted the covenant. And beside Kael, Mira whispered the words that made his wolf rise beneath his skin. It's not crying anymore. She stared at the black veins spreading through the stone. It's awake. No one moved. The black veins continued crawling across the oath stone while the royal mage backed away from it. Kael could smell fear now. Not human fear. Wolf fear. 7 alphas had come to Frostfang Keep expecting to renew the covenant that had kept their territories united for generations. Instead, they were staring at proof that someone had corrupted the oldest symbol of their loyalty. What was done to it? Kael asked. The royal mage swallowed. I need to open the binding, my king. Do it. The mage removed a silver blade from his robes and cut his palm. 3 drops of blood struck the stone. The reaction was immediate. Black symbols burned across its surface. Several alphas rose from their seats. Lady Vesper Thorn stared at the markings. I know those runes. Kael turned toward her. Then speak. Vesper's jaw tightened. Hollow oath. Silence fell again. Even Kael knew the name. Forbidden magic created during the Pack Wars, when rival bloodlines had learned that controlling an oath could be more powerful than breaking one. The royal mage nodded grimly. If the Alpha King had completed the ceremony, the curse would have entered the covenant through his blood. And then? It would make the 7 packs feel that you had betrayed the oath first. Angry voices erupted across the chamber. Kael ignored them. Would they be wrong? The mage hesitated. Magic does not care about truth, my king. Only what it can make the bond believe. That was the real weapon. Not death. Legitimacy. Someone had nearly turned every alpha in Veyrholm against him without drawing a sword. Seal Frostfang Keep, Kael ordered. No one leaves. The doors slammed shut. Only then did Kael notice Mira trembling beside her mother. Elara had both arms around her now. Lord Soren approached carefully. Kael. Only family used his name during court. We should consider every possibility before panic spreads. Kael looked at him. Soren's gaze shifted toward Elara. A human healer had access to this hall before the ceremony. Elara stiffened. And her daughter somehow recognized forbidden magic that trained wolves did not. Several nobles began whispering. Kael saw suspicion move through the room faster than the curse had moved through the stone. Elara stepped in front of Mira. If you are accusing me, my lord, then accuse me clearly. Soren's expression remained calm. I am asking questions. No, Elara said. You're giving everyone else an answer. A growl rolled through the chamber. Not from Soren. From Kael. Every wolf went silent. No one touches either of them. His eyes moved across the assembled court. The child warned me before the curse was discovered. Until I know why, she and her mother remain under my protection. Mira tugged gently on his coat. Kael looked down. Her face had gone pale. King Kael? What is it? She pointed toward the 7 silver lines carved into the floor, each representing one of the great packs. 6 were dark. 1 was slowly turning black. The crying moved. Kael followed her finger. Where? Mira looked toward the gathered alphas. Into one of them. Every alpha looked down. The black stain had reached the silver line of Ironclaw pack. Lady Vesper Thorn stepped backward. That proves nothing. Mira flinched at her voice. Kael noticed. He crouched beside the girl, bringing the most powerful wolf in Veyrholm down to the height of a human child. Mira, look at me. She did. What exactly do you hear? Mira struggled for an answer. Not words. Then what? Feelings. She pressed both hands over her ears. Like when someone cries behind a door and doesn't want you to know. Kael glanced toward the corrupted line. And now? It's angry. The royal mage had gone strangely still. Your Majesty, there may be an explanation. Kael stood. Give it. The mage looked at Mira. Whisperborn. Elara's grip tightened around her daughter. I don't know that word. Most humans wouldn't. Most wolves don't either. The mage approached carefully. Centuries ago, before the 7-pack covenant existed, there were humans who could sense corruption inside magical bonds. They couldn't cast spells. They could hear when magic had been twisted against its purpose. Soren frowned. The Whisperborn disappeared generations ago. So the records claim. Kael looked at Mira. A thin silver ring had appeared around her hazel-green irises. Can she identify who corrupted the stone? No, the mage answered immediately. If the old records are accurate, she senses corrupted magic, not guilt. That distinction mattered. Kael could already see Wolf studying Mira as though she had become a weapon. She wasn't. She was 6. Then nobody questions her without me or her mother present. Soren's eyes narrowed. Kael, if she can detect the hollow oath, she is not evidence to be passed around my council. The finality in his voice ended the argument. Then the great doors opened. A royal guard entered carrying a leather ledger. My king, we checked everyone authorized to enter the Hall of 7 Wolves before tonight's ceremony. He placed the ledger before Kael. Someone entered after midnight yesterday. Who? We don't know. The signature was removed. Kael examined the page. One line had been carefully cut away. But beneath it remained a dark red smear. Mira stared at the ledger. Her expression changed. Don't touch that. Kael stopped. Again. The royal mage brought the page closer to the light. His face hardened. Blood. Whose? I'll need time. Mira shook her head. It's the same crying. Kael looked from the blood to the blackened Ironclaw line. Someone had entered the ceremonial hall in secret. Someone had used blood magic. And someone had expected the Alpha King to complete the oath before anyone discovered it. Then Mira whispered something only Kael heard. They knew you would trust them. For the first time that night, Kael wondered whether the enemy he was hunting had ever truly been outside his walls. By midnight, Frostfang Keep no longer felt like a royal fortress. It felt like a trap. Every gate was locked. Every guard rotation had been doubled. The 7 visiting alphas remained confined to the royal wing while Kael's investigators reconstructed every movement made before the ceremony. Then they found the first real trail. Captain Rorik entered the council chamber carrying a torn strip of black cloth and a small iron key. Found behind the western passage, my king. The key opens the servants' entrance to the Hall of 7 Wolves. Kael examined the cloth. A silver claw had been embroidered along its edge. Iron claw. Across the chamber, Lady Vespera's face hardened. You cannot seriously believe I would leave my own crest behind. I haven't said what I believe. You didn't need to. Soren stood beside the map table. Vespera had access to the fortress. Her pack line was the first affected by the curse. Now we find Ironclaw colors beside an unauthorized entrance. Vespera turned on him. Convenient. A low growl entered her voice. Almost too convenient. Kael agreed. But he said nothing. Elara sat near the fire with Mira sleeping against her shoulder. She had refused 3 offers of better quarters. Until Kael knew who controlled the guards, she trusted rooms she could see more than doors someone else could lock. Kael understood the logic. He was beginning to share it. Captain Rorik placed another item on the table. We found this inside the passage. A metal token. Kael recognized it immediately. Royal Guard authorization. The room changed. Only senior officers possessed those tokens. How many are missing? Kael asked. Rorik's silence answered first. 3. Kael felt his wolf stir. The conspiracy was no longer outside his guard. It was inside it. Mira suddenly woke. She stared toward the token. Then toward the wall behind Soren. Mommy. Elara looked down. What is it? The crying is walking. Everyone froze. Mira slipped from her mother's arms and moved toward the stone wall. She stopped beside an old tapestry depicting the first Alpha King. Then she pointed behind it. Rorik pulled the tapestry aside. A narrow door appeared. Kael had known Frostfang Keep for more than a century. He had never seen it. The hidden passage beyond smelled of dust, cold stone, and wolf. Fresh wolf. They followed it to a small chamber overlooking the ceremonial hall. Inside were copies of guard rotations, maps of Frostfang Keep, and records detailing which pack leaders opposed Kael's human treaties. Then Rorik found the list. 7 names. 6 had been crossed out. 1 remained. Lady Vesper Thorn. Soren read over Kael's shoulder. There's your answer. No, Kael said. He turned the paper over. Written on the back were 4 words. After Ironclaw, blame the human. Kael's eyes lifted toward Elara. Someone wasn't merely planning to destroy his covenant. They had already chosen who would take the fall. The accusation came before sunrise. A royal guard entered the council chamber carrying Elara's medicine pouch inside a sealed evidence box. We found it beneath the western stairs, my king. Elara stood immediately. That's impossible. The guard opened the box. Inside her pouch were dried herbs, bandages, 2 healing tinctures, and a small glass vial filled with black liquid. The royal mage went pale. Hollow ink. Every eye turned toward Elara. She stared at the vial. I've never seen that before. Soren stepped closer. Your pouch. Forbidden ink. A human child who somehow knew the oath stone was corrupted. Elara's expression hardened. Say what you're trying to say. Soren did. You corrupted the stone. Mira grabbed her mother's dress. No. Vespera watched from across the chamber. For once, I agree with the child. Soren looked at her sharply. Vespera pointed toward the pouch. If Elara wanted to hide forbidden magic, why leave it inside something carrying her name? No one answered. Kael walked toward Elara. Where was your pouch last night? In the healer's room. Who could enter? Half the castle. Soren exhaled. Convenient. Kael turned. So is evidence that arrives precisely when we need someone to blame. Soren's face changed almost imperceptibly. Kael saw it. Then Mira stepped forward. She stared at the black vial but didn't cover her ears. Kael noticed that too. Mira? She looked confused. It isn't crying. The royal mage frowned. What? The black stuff. She pointed. It's quiet. He carefully opened the vial and touched a silver testing needle to the liquid. Nothing happened. Then he smelled it. His expression shifted from alarm to disbelief. This isn't hollow ink. Soren's jaw tightened. What is it? Burned nightroot mixed with lamp oil. A harmless imitation. The evidence had been planted. Elara closed her eyes briefly. Kael did not. He was watching Soren. Before he could speak, Captain Rorik rushed into the chamber. My king, we identified the blood from the ledger. Kael turned. Whose? Rorik hesitated. Royal blood. Silence. Be specific. It belongs to House Draven. Only 3 living wolves carried enough of the direct Draven line to activate the oath stone. Kael was one. His elderly aunt was another. And the third stood only a few feet away. Every face slowly turned toward Soren Vale. Soren looked almost offended. Then he smiled. Finally. Kael's wolf surged beneath his skin. Finally what? Soren met his cousin's eyes. Finally, you're asking the right question. A bell began ringing somewhere below them. Once. Twice. Then 3 times. Kael knew that signal. The northern gate had been breached. Soren's smile disappeared. And Kael understood. The false evidence against Elara had never been meant to survive an investigation. It had only been meant to keep him looking in the wrong direction until the real attack began. Steel rang somewhere beneath the council chamber. Kael did not look toward the sound. He looked at Soren. How many? Soren's expression became strangely peaceful. Enough. Captain Rorik drew his sword. Kael stopped him with one hand. No. I want him alive. Soren laughed softly. Still merciful. Even now. Mercy has nothing to do with it. Kael stepped closer. I want to hear you admit it. For 60 years, Soren had stood beside him. They had trained together, buried family together, defended Veyrholm together. Kael had trusted him beyond politics. That was why the betrayal hurt somewhere anger could not reach. You used your blood on the oath stone. Yes. You planted evidence against Elara. I ordered it. And Vespera? Soren glanced toward the Ironclaw Alpha. She wanted freedom from your covenant. I offered it. Vespera's eyes flashed gold. You told me the hollow oath would dissolve the covenant. It will. You never said you intended to take the crown. Soren smiled. You never asked what came afterward. Vespera lunged. Guards caught her before she reached him. Soren barely reacted. Kael understood then that Vespera had never been his partner. She had been another piece on the board. Why? Kael asked. Soren's amusement vanished. Because you weakened us. His voice filled the chamber. Human settlements expand across our borders. Lesser packs question royal commands. Wolves who once feared Veyrholm now debate its laws as though strength requires permission. His eyes moved toward Elara and Mira. And now humans stand inside the royal council while wolves wait outside. Elara pulled Mira closer. Kael's voice remained quiet. You tried to destroy the covenant to save it? I tried to save Veyrholm from you. There it was. Not greed. Conviction. That made Soren more dangerous. A horn sounded below. Then another. Rorik turned toward the door. Royal Guard signals. Soren smiled again. Not your royal guard. Kael seized him by the throat and drove him against the stone wall. For one heartbeat, his eyes burned amber gold. Soren struggled for air but still managed to speak. You think tonight is about killing you? Kael tightened his grip. No. Soren's smile returned. It's about making them reject you. A violent pulse moved through the floor. Far below, something ancient answered. The silver wolf emblem above the council doors cracked down the middle. The royal mage went white. The covenant. Kael released Soren. What happened? The hollow oath has been activated again. But the stone is sealed. The mage looked toward the floor. Then the oath stone was never the source. Mira suddenly screamed. She fell to her knees, covering her ears. Elara rushed to her. Mira. The girl pointed downward. Toward the oldest chamber in Frostfang Keep. The crying is everywhere. Kael understood before the mage said it. The corrupted stone had only been the doorway. The real curse had been buried beneath his throne all along. The first scream came from the corridor. Then the doors burst open. 2 royal guards stumbled inside. One collapsed immediately. The other pressed a hand against blood running from his shoulder. Your Majesty, the northern barracks turned against us. Captain Rorik caught him. How many? At least 30. Maybe more. Another horn sounded from the eastern tower. Then the western gate. Soren had not corrupted a handful of men. He had built an army inside Kael's own fortress. Kael turned toward his captain. Secure the 7 alphas. Nobody reaches the Hall of 7 Wolves. Rorik nodded. And Soren? Kael looked toward the wall. Empty. The guards who had been holding Soren lay unconscious on the floor. A narrow section of stone stood open behind them. Soren was gone. Find him. Kael drew his sword. A crash shook the corridor outside. Elara grabbed Mira. We need to leave. Kael looked at them. For one terrible second, instinct divided him. His crown was under attack. The covenant was collapsing. The fortress needed its Alpha King. But somewhere inside Frostfang Keep, Soren had already prepared to blame a human woman and her child for treason. If Kael lost them now, he knew exactly what story Soren would tell. Kael turned to 4 of his oldest guards. Take Elara and Mira to the lower sanctuary. One guard hesitated. My king, your protection goes with them. Elara stared at him. Kael. It was the first time she had used his name. He met her eyes. Keep her safe. What about you? A roar exploded from the corridor. Kael's eyes burned gold. I have a kingdom to remind who its alpha is. He stepped into the hall. The first traitor charged. Kael moved before the man's blade completed its arc. Steel flashed. The attacker hit the floor. 3 more came behind him. Kael met them head-on. For years, his enemies had mistaken restraint for weakness. Tonight, Frostfang Keep remembered the difference. Behind him, Elara pulled Mira toward the sanctuary stairs. They had nearly reached them when Mira stopped. No. Elara tightened her grip. Mira, we have to go. Not down there. The girl stared toward the darkness below. The crying wants us to go down. Elara froze. A guard took 1 step onto the staircase. Silver runes ignited beneath his boot. Back. Elara dragged him away. A heartbeat later, black fire erupted through the stairwell. Stone shattered. The sanctuary entrance disappeared beneath burning debris. Kael turned at the explosion. Across the chaos, his eyes found Mira. She pointed toward the opposite corridor. That way. Kael did not question her. Rorik. Change route. The surviving guards moved immediately. Then the royal mage appeared through the smoke. My king. What? We know where the curse is anchored. Kael looked toward the trembling floor. The mage's next words confirmed his fear. Hall of 7 Wolves. A distant howl rolled through Frostfang Keep. Not 1 wolf. 7. Soren had reached the alphas. And the real coup had begun. The doors to the Hall of 7 Wolves were already open. Kael entered to the sound of chains breaking. Not iron chains. Something deeper. 7 silver lines burned across the floor, each connecting an alpha to the oath stone at the center of the chamber. All 7 had turned black. The alphas were on their knees. Some clutched their chests. Others fought against partial transformations they could no longer control. Claws tore from human fingers. Golden eyes burned with rage that did not belong to them. Lady Vespera screamed as black veins crawled across her neck. And beside the oath stone stood Soren. You came. Kael raised his sword. Release them. I already have. Soren smiled. From you. The hollow oath pulsed. Pain tore through Kael's chest. He staggered. For the first time in more than a century, he could not feel the 7 packs. Their presence had always existed somewhere beneath his heartbeat. Now there was only silence. Then hostility. 1 alpha lifted his head and growled at him. Another followed. Soren spread his arms. The Covenant believes you betrayed them. You corrupted it. Truth is irrelevant once the bond accepts the lie. Kael's wolf surged forward. Soren wanted that. Kael saw it immediately. If he dominated the alphas now, if he forced their wolves back beneath his authority, the hollow oath would turn every act of control into proof that their king had become a tyrant. Fight me, Soren whispered. Kael lowered his sword. Soren's smile faded. Behind Kael, footsteps approached. Elara entered with Mira protected between Captain Rorik and the royal mage. Kael's anger exploded. I told you to protect them. You did, Elara said. But she heard something. Mira was staring at the 7 corrupted lines. Her silver-ringed eyes filled with tears. It's holding them. The royal mage looked at her. What is? The promise. Mira pointed at Kael. They're trying to get away, but his promise won't let them. Kael went still. The mage understood next. Your Majesty. Soren's face changed. No. The hollow oath needs the covenant, the mage said. Without the original oath, the curse has nothing to corrupt. Kael looked toward the royal seal carved beneath his feet. For generations, every Alpha King had protected that seal. Breaking it would dissolve his legal authority over every pack in Veyrholm. His throne would become nothing more than a chair. Soren stepped forward. Think carefully, cousin. Kael looked at the suffering Alphas. Then at Elara. Then Mira. All night, people had tried to use loyalty as a weapon. Soren had built his rebellion on forced allegiance. Kael finally understood what he had to do. He drove his sword into the royal seal. The stone cracked. Soren screamed. Stop. Kael twisted the blade. Silver light erupted through the chamber. And the Alpha King spoke the words no ruler of Veyrholm had ever dared to say. I release every pack from its oath to me. The royal seal shattered. For one impossible heartbeat, every sound in the Hall of Seven Wolves disappeared. Then the covenant broke. Silver light raced through the seven blackened lines, burning away the corruption wherever it touched. The Alphas collapsed. Kael nearly did the same. Something that had lived inside him for more than a century was suddenly gone. The pack bonds. The authority of the crown. The ancient magic that recognized him as Alpha King. Gone. Soren stared at the broken seal. Then he laughed. You fool. Kael pulled his sword from the shattered stone. You gave me exactly what I wanted. There is no covenant now. No law binding the packs to you. I know. Then you're not their king. Kael looked around the chamber. No. Soren's smile widened. Veyrholm is mine. No, Lady Vespera said. Soren turned. Vespera forced herself to her feet. The black veins had vanished from her skin. You promised freedom. I gave it to you. You tried to replace one oath with another. Soren's expression hardened. I did what was necessary. Vespera looked at Kael. For years, Ironclaw had challenged his treaties, questioned his decisions, and demanded greater independence. Now nothing compelled her to obey him. Slowly, Vespera lowered herself onto one knee. Ironclaw chooses Kael Draven. Soren stared at her. Another Alpha stood. Then knelt. Mooncrest chooses Kael Draven. A third followed. Stormfang chooses Kael Draven. One by one, the remaining Alphas rose. One by one, they knelt. Not because magic forced them. Not because ancient law demanded it. Because they chose him. Soren backed away. No. Kael stepped toward him. You never understood loyalty. Soren's eyes flashed gold. I understood power. That's why you lost. Soren shifted. Bones cracked. Claws emerged. Rorik reached for his sword. Kael stopped him. Soren charged. Kael met him halfway. The fight lasted seconds. Without the hollow oath feeding his strength, Soren was simply a powerful wolf facing the Alpha who had survived a century of war. Kael caught him, turned his momentum, and drove him against the broken oath stone. Soren fell. Kael placed a blade against his throat. Do it, Soren whispered. Kael looked down at the cousin he had once considered a brother. Then lowered the sword. No. Soren stared at him. You wanted to prove mercy made me weak. Kael stepped away. I won't let you decide what kind of king I become. Royal Guard seized Soren. Behind Kael, the 7 Alphas remained kneeling. Kael turned toward them. Stand. They did. There was no covenant left to command them. No magic connecting their blood to his. Yet for the first time that night, Kael understood exactly why he was still their Alpha King. He had surrendered the power to make them follow. And they had followed anyway. By sunrise, Frostfang Keep belonged to no oath but the ones its people had chosen. Soren's conspirators were arrested. The corrupted oath stone was removed from the Hall of Seven Wolves, and the surviving council began the slow work of rebuilding what fear had nearly destroyed. Elara packed anyway. Kael found her 3 days later fastening Mira's medicine pouch beside a small travel bag. "You're leaving?" Elara looked at him. "I have to think about my daughter." "I know." That answer surprised her. Kael placed a sealed document on the table. "Royal protection. You may settle in any territory in Veyrholm. No pack may question Mira, claim her abilities, or compel her service." Elara stared at the document. "You would let us go?" Kael's expression softened. "I broke a kingdom apart rather than force loyalty from people who didn't choose it." He looked at her. "I won't make a different rule for you." Elara's eyes filled with tears. "And if I choose to stay?" For once, the Alpha King had no command to give. "Then stay because you want a life here." His gaze moved briefly toward Mira sleeping near the fire. "With me." Months later, the Hall of Seven Wolves opened again. There was no oath stone. No enchanted blood. No magic forcing obedience. 7 alphas stood before Kael beneath newly carved words. Loyalty given freely cannot be stolen. Elara stood beside him in forest green, not behind the throne and not among the servants. Mira stood between them. The new covenant rested on a simple wooden table. Each alpha signed it voluntarily. Finally, Kael stepped forward. He lifted the pen. Mira grabbed his sleeve. The entire hall froze. Kael slowly looked down. After everything that had happened the last time a 6-year-old stopped a royal ceremony, nobody breathed. "What is it?" Mira stared at the covenant. Her hazel green eyes developed that familiar silver ring. Kael waited. So did 7 alphas, an entire council, and half the royal guard. Then Mira smiled. "Nothing." Kael raised an eyebrow. She touched the page. "This one sounds happy." Laughter broke through the hall. Even Vespera laughed. Kael looked at Elara. She slipped her hand into his. Then the Alpha King signed. For most of his life, Kael Draven had believed strength meant possessing enough power that no one could challenge him. Soren had believed the same thing. They had both been wrong. A throne could demand obedience. Magic could manufacture loyalty. Fear could force wolves to kneel. But none of those things could make someone choose to remain when the door was open. Kael had surrendered his right to command 7 packs and discovered that they still wanted him as their Alpha King. He had given Elara the freedom to leave and discovered that she wanted to stay. And the smallest person in Frostfang Keep had taught them all the difference. Real loyalty was never the oath someone was forced to make. It was the one they chose to keep.